I mean, my only pushback on this concept of workforce replacement in procurement is that I feel that the cost of the person relative to the amount of dollar value that's being spent
Right.
is very small. And so, when I used to be at Waymo, as you remember, and I remember I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs who were building different autonomous vehicles, right? So Waymo was looking to replace the driver and build a ride share like an Uber or Lyft without a driver. And in that case, the driver is like the biggest expense. So it makes perfect sense to try to automate. And there's also experience improvement that I'll talk about my opinions on later. The second kinds of examples I would see is people would say, okay, what if we could make autonomous shipping container boats? And I remember thinking like, that sounds like not a good idea because maybe you could add sensors and hardware and software to help facilitate autonomy on a transatlantic cargo ship, but there's $300 million of goods on there. And the labor of the people, even if you had 5 or 10 or 20, it's a rounding error versus the cost of the goods. I feel like there is like in my mind, I have this a visualization, which is like the ratio of the cost of the human versus the potential impact one way or another. And in procurement, it feels like, okay, well, I know I was on site on Tuesday with a team that's like 7 people managing like, $1.4 billion of spend or 2 billion of spend, something like that. And so you'd think, okay, actually don't reduce those people, just like get higher quality people and give them more tooling. So I'm kind of curious how that sits with you.
Well, I've been involved in the procurement benchmarking area for a very long time, and there's not a function that probably has a higher ROI than, procurement, in terms of it's literally 5x, 7x, 10x, right? So you're like, well, if I'm comparing that payback versus my cost of capital, I'm like,
Yeah.
that seems like a pretty good investment area. Now you can get into, well, procurement's cherry picking. Do we believe the numbers? It's the whole system around savings. You get into this whole, dialogue. But regardless, I mean, even if it's 2x or 3x, it's like, wow, we should really move on the I, increase the R, and give them better tools. And let's get it to 5x, 10x, 20x just through creating more savings, revenue enhancement, working, whatever it is, right? Just create more value to give those resources better opportunity. It's so funny. I was involved when I was like, this is classic, right? When I was doing a benchmarking project and, this was back, when I was originally at Hackett, and it was like, we're telling this large, defense company, they're like, why are you spending all your time telling us about all this money that we're spending on P2P and this transactional stuff when all the value is in the strategic area? And we're like, yeah, because you're spending about 60% of your budget on that low impact, stuff. So you're basically wasting its expense in, over half of your money that you're given versus actually creating investment, right? And the difference between expense and investment is that it's not just PO processing. You're actually finding new opportunities for value creation. The direct side is where the value opportunities open up a lot more because now you're talking about products and revenue and, et cetera. So